Welcome back. In this session, we'll talk about PowerShell profiles and execution policies. So very much similar to your GUI. Okay, when you log into your operating system, you have the logon profile or the startup profile, right? So when the machine starts up, the profile gets loaded in order to have all the necessary drivers, tools, and stuff. Similarly, on your user login, you add some specific scripts to adhere to some specific policies or specific standards defined by your organization. So PowerShell also has a profile, which is equally important when someone logs into their PowerShell prompt. Okay, so there is a script that executes which can be configured as a profile. Okay, so why we need to have the profiles configured? For example, if you have some specific aliases, or if your organization want to have some specific modules, functions, variables loaded up, you can automatically have the profile doing all these things for you, and which simplifies a lot of things for your PowerShell prompt, or even for your PowerShell integrated scripting environment. A lot of stuffs like PowerShell drive mapping and PowerShell module loading, all these things can be automated in the profile. So there are different type of profiles, and I'll show you something in the graphical window quickly. So if you just open up your PowerShell, Windows PowerShell, or the latest PowerShell version 7, okay, the command to verify the PowerShell profile it's the same. Since we are transitioning between different versions, like between Windows PowerShell and the latest PowerShell core, I'm just showing you both of them together in the same screen. So you have to just type $profile. So PowerShell is non-case sensitive, right? It doesn't matter like whether you type capital profile, the P in uppercase or P in lowercase, it is going to give you the same output. So it is in case sensitive. But if you look at the profile path, your Windows PowerShell has got a profile path which is under C user stan and then documents Windows PowerShell, and then the PS1 PowerShell script file. It is under this location. Whereas if you look at the PowerShell core, which is version 7, it is under C user stan documents and then PowerShell folder. So it is Windows PowerShell. Here it's just PowerShell. And also you can, okay, this is because of the default home directory, or this is because of the PowerShell default home directory. So you can see the PowerShell default home directory is in the C Windows System 32. And again, here you see the name Windows PowerShell. Okay, and if you look at the PowerShell home directory in your latest PowerShell version 7, you can see it is under the C program files PowerShell. So it is a collection of it's a combination of your home directory plus the folder where exactly the PowerShell is homed. Okay, so by default, I don't think you have the profiles created. So if I just go and check under this path, I don't think there will be any specific directory with the name C Windows, or like I can just check like this, right? I can just get inside the documents and then I can just check for listing. So it doesn't give any directory or any listing here. The same here. If I go under the documents folder, it will not have any folder with PowerShell or Windows PowerShell. If I want to create one, I can just go and type in Notepad and then $profile. I think it will throw out an error, but then even if it cannot find the path, I can just go and create the file path. See, I mean, you can go and add all the aliases, modules, and if you want to have some specific login message, or if you want to show up something, you can go and have everything configured on this PowerShell script file. So it's like your login script or your startup script. So here, let me write something here. I'll try to write a host, and then I'll say welcome to master PowerShell in a series of lunches by Skill Up with Stan. Okay, I'm just adding a write host message, and then let me save it. So when I save it, I'll have to save it as a PowerShell script file. Okay, and also you need to be very careful that it has to be inside the folder, PowerShell folder. So even the PowerShell folder doesn't exist. Okay, let me also create that here. Okay, under this folder, I'll just create the PowerShell profile script file. Okay, I'm using double quotes to ensure that the extension is preserved, okay, or else it will get saved as a txt file. So now I got the PowerShell profile created for my PowerShell core. So if I try to log in with my PowerShell core, I am seeing this profile message. So whatever module or aliases or any kind of functions or commands or snap-ins that you want to load, or if you want to map any drives for your PowerShell, you can do it via your profile. Similarly, here I can just do it the same way in my Windows PowerShell. Okay, I can just say make directory Windows PowerShell, and within that I can go and okay, since we are learning PowerShell, I'll try to use the integrated scripting environment to create that profile in my Windows PowerShell, okay, rather than my notepad. Okay, notepad also will work out. See, it worked out here, right? But then I want to utilize the ISE here. Okay, let me use my ISE, and here integrated scripting environment when I say ISE. So here I'll just say, instead of um, uh, giving a message this time, I'll just give some date and time. Okay, I think we don't have to type too many things, and where exactly this has to be homed. I think it is under the C users, and it needs a folder, Windows PowerShell. It's already there, right? I think Windows PowerShell folder is already there, but the name of the script is this one. Okay, let me save this file as this file, save as, and then I'll put it under Windows PowerShell, and let me save it as PS1. Since I'm saving it using the ISE integrated scripting environment, I don't have to use the double quotes because it will either save it in the PS1 or the PowerShell related module files or whatever. Okay, so here, if I go and load the PowerShell now, okay, you can see that it displays the time. Okay, I can show you the difference. If I load the PowerShell without the profile, see, it does not give any timing here. So the get date and the date and time, it displays the profile, and it shows up what I have added in the profile. Okay, you are following me, right? So here, if I type PowerShell core, so you can see that it gives me the profile message. So I'm just showing you in the alternate console. So this is how you can add a lot of things. Okay, in general, if you ask me what are the different stuffs that they will add it in the profile, I have a listing here in the document. So they will generally add some kind of different styling, some font size and coloring and different things. And they'll also set a default location for you to work in the system. And they'll also have the different path, the variable, the modules, and then they will also have the aliases created. They will also have the snap-ins loaded. They will also have the drives. Okay, they will also have the PowerShell drives mapped. And I've seen they're also adding the snap-ins in the recent past. So you can go and use it for multiple different things. Okay, so when you log into PowerShell, all these things will be there. And if you look at here, PowerShell profile, it applies to the current user and current host. If I just go and say $PowerShell, but then there are many other profiles that exist on the system. See, if I want, there might be multiple users logging into the same server. And if I want to look at for all the hosts, I can also just type in this command and it will give me the output. Okay, let me just paste that command here. Okay, that's interesting. It did not get copied. Okay, let me try to copy it again. Let me try to, hopefully my clipboard is enabled. Okay, it is. So you can see that it shows me a different path altogether. It says profile.ps1. Even though I'm in the PowerShell PWSH, which means PowerShell Core 7, it says it is under the folder PowerShell, that is fine. But after that, it says profile.ps1. So what I'm trying to say here is profile.ps1 is the path for if you want to apply the profile for all the users and all the sessions. I mean, current user and all the session. So all host here means it's not different servers or whatever. So that's where it becomes a little confusing. The host here refers to your PowerShell core, PowerShell ISE, and so on. So host is nothing but different PowerShell tool sets. And if you log in with the current user into any PowerShell core or PowerShell or PowerShell ISE, you'll get the same output. So if you want to update the profile, so you have to name it this way. It has to be under the PowerShell folder. Similarly, if you want to apply it for all the users in the current host, you can apply it under Microsoft PowerShell underscore profile.ps1. Similarly, if you want to apply it for all the users in all the host here means not different servers, but instead it is PowerShell ISE, PowerShell core, and so on. Okay, so that's the beauty of it. You can just go and create a folder in this way. So there are more than one method on how to create the PowerShell profile. Okay, and I've shown you a example there. But if you want to learn other examples, I can also quickly show you. There are ways to go and check it. For example, let me exit from PowerShell core here. So now I'm back in my regular PowerShell. So I can just go and say test-path and then profile. It should test and tell me true or false. See, it is saying true because the folder does exist here. So if I'm trying to delete this folder and the directory, let me try it again now. It should say false because it doesn't exist. The profile doesn't exist. So I'm just testing whether the profile path exists or not. If I want to create it, I can use even the PowerShell command to create the profile, not the regular method, because in real time you might be using the PowerShell commands to create the profile path if it doesn't exist. So this is the command to create it. I can go and create the profile in the default path, and I can force it. Sometimes it might not allow to create. And in order to do this, okay, so it says new path item type. I have typed, there is a typo here. Okay, I want to create a file, and then let's see, new path, item type, file, hyphen path, profile, and then force. Okay, this should work. Okay, I think new path is not the command, it's new item. Okay, I don't want to change the path. Instead, I want to create an item. Yeah, perfect. So it has created a file. So this is the simple command using which you can go and create a profile. So last time we did using a different way, right? Now you can see that it has created a PowerShell profile, and now that particular file should be empty. It is 0 KB now. If I go and load the PowerShell, it will not result any output. The reason is it is empty. It will not give the date and time or whatever. Okay, but then the profile is now loaded. If I go and check out for the profile, it should say true because now the profile path does exist. Okay, so this is how we can deal with the PowerShell profile. Okay, and there are a lot of other things that you can explore. For example, if you want to get the details of the profile for, I mean, if you want to understand what are the different profiles for different users and what do you call different host. When I say host, the different tool set, I can just go and bring out the property here. Let me check if it works. Yeah, it works. Okay, for all the users, what is the current property, where exactly the profile is set up, and for all the users current host. So you can go and change it by the property. I can just go and filter the name here. Yeah, so you can go and change the profile for 4 different stuffs, but the command that you have to use is the same, and at the end you can just it's pretty straightforward. Okay, it is also very important to know where you get to have a lot of standards and best practices enabled for your different users here. Okay, so this is the first half of the topic that I want to cover, and the next half is around the execution policy. See, you can go and create your profile and stuff, but then you have to be allowed to execute the script in your system. So there is a concept called execution policy, which will allow you or restrict you from running a PowerShell script on your machine. If you want to load the configuration files or if you want to run the script, there are different execution policies which will allow you or not allow you based on the configuration that you have done. Okay, so it's a kind of security feature, okay, and through which you can decide whether you want to allow certain users from running the PowerShell scripts or any different third-party scripts or VB scripts or whatever. So it's not a hardcore security feature, but still like it prevents the user from running a script or from a malware attacking the systems using a malicious code, or if someone is trying to hack and steal your data, this can come in a handy feature to avoid execution of unwanted scripts on your system. So by default, in the earlier operating systems, it used to be restricted, but now at least they have changed to remote signed. So we'll talk about what are the different settings that we have. Okay, so when we say execution, it's not about executing a person, but here we talk about avoiding by running a particular script on your system. So if it is configured for all signed, only those scripts can run, and which are signed by a trusted publisher. So only the scripts that are signed by a trusted publisher with a digital signature can be executed on this machine. And before running the script, the policy will ask you to whether confirm whether you are trusting the script or whether you are trusting the publisher and so on. Okay, so if you are having your execution policy in bypass mode, I can show you that quickly here. So by default, let me clear the screen, and I can get the execution policy of my machine. So by default here, it will be remote signed in the latest operating systems. In prior operating system, it used to be restricted. And also always it's a good habit to go and update your help so that you can get the latest help command. Okay, let me try to open up. It's always a best practice to do that. Okay, I can try and get the help of the restriction policies about execution policies. Let me try if it allows me. Yeah, it allows me to open it. So here you can see that there are many different execution policy on my machine here. Okay, you can also get help for just a second. Get help. Okay, I can just say get help, and then okay, it has already updated the help here on my machine. But then let me set the execution policy help. You will have a detailed execution policy detail. See, this is what it's a security strategy, and using which you can go and understand what kind of things you can do and you cannot. Okay, I can also go and get more details around this. I can just type this. I can okay, I think it already updated it, hopefully. Okay, let me copy and paste this about execution policies. Okay, yeah. So no, that's fine. See, what I'm trying to convey here is, if you are setting the execution policy in bypass mode, nothing will be blocked, and there are no warnings, no prompts, nothing will be there, and it will bypass your you to allow you to run the script on your machine. So remote sign means it will always check for the digital signature. I also will give a session on how to sign your script and how to do a digital signature added to your script. I'll have a separate session on that. And if it is set for remote signed, then it will always prompt for signature, and without that, it will not allow you to run it. Restricted means it will by default block. This execution policy is available by default for only the Windows client computers, and it is not available for what do you call the non-Windows systems. If, for example, if you're having a default, if for non-Windows system, unrestricted is the default option, which means it will allow all the scripts to get executed. But for Windows client computers, by default, it is restricted, and it does not allow you to run any script, but it will allow you to run commandlets or commands. Undefined means there is no execution policy that is defined. So there are many levels for which you can have the policy set. You can set it for the machine, you can set it for user. So I can show you that quickly here. If you go to your group policy, you can set it from the Active Directory. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about group policy and Active Directory, but execution policy can be controlled using your group policy also. So if I go here, there is a section for Windows PowerShell, and under which you can go and restrict, you can go and turn on the script execution, you can disable it, you can allow all the scripts, or you can allow only the remote sign scripts, and you have the option to go and play around within your group policy also. So you can also set it for your computer configuration, you can also do it for your user configuration. And if you ask me like how the precedence will work, so it will work in this way. So if you have applied something, first it will check all the machine policy and then user policy. Then it goes and checks the process that is applied. And you can also check that under the registry key also. Sometimes the policies might get updated in your registry. So if you want to get all the details of the execution policy on your machine, you can just go and say get execution policy and hyphen list. So that will give you the complete list, okay, whether what kind of policy is set up for your machine policy, user policy, process, current user, and local machine. So if something is set up on local machine and current user, it is through the registry. But if it is through the machine policy and user policy, then it means something is getting applied from the Active Directory in your organization. So you might have to go and work with the team to get it updated. So you can also get the execution policy by scope. For example, if I want to understand what kind of execution policy that is set up for my local machine, I can also say local machine or current user and so on, and it will give me what kind of setting it has got. Okay, so using this, you can control the script getting executed on your machine, whether PowerShell or Microsoft as an organization, they want to secure the PowerShell, and by default, they want to prevent any mistakes, or they don't want any script to get executed, and PowerShell have to be properly signed by a trusted digital third-party provider, and that's the goal they want to achieve. Okay, so PowerShell profile, it is very important, and you can I mean it's a kind of to load user-defined variables and functions automatically. PowerShell profiles are not automatically created, and you have to get it created. And once after you create it, you can get all the details enabled. Okay, so just to summarize, let me show you this. There are many other ways through which you can create the profile. Okay, let me just try to format the list here. Okay, so this is what it is configured for. And if you want to set it for all users, then you have to set it in profiles.ps1 file. Or if you want to set it for only the current users and current host, then you can set it under this particular path. So there are different locations where you have to go and create the profile settings. In the beginning of the class, I showed you how to go and update it. You can update all the settings that you would like to have on all the users or only the current user and so on. And similarly, PowerShell, you can also set up some specific, for example, I've seen some customers asking to bypass specific PowerShell files. And if you want to allow only specific PS1 files on your machine, you can also do that. For example, I can just say PowerShell hyphen, instead of execution policy, I can type hyphen EP, and then I can just bypass only a specific example file that is on this particular path. By doing this, it will allow this particular file to get executed without any restriction. So you can also do this kind of thing, or else you can type completely like execution policy instead of EP. I can also type this way, and you can say bypass hyphen file and then C. So you can simplify it. So when you're writing a script, you have to type the entire thing instead of the shorthand command. But then if you're directly doing it on the command prompt, then you can use the shorthand command prompt. So the message is that there is no example.ps1, that's fine, but the command that I've given is very much valid. Okay, so uh, this is very, very important. Both profile and execution policy is very attached to your regular routine, and especially PowerShell execution policy. It is used for security reason, and PowerShell is by setup by default to allow only signed scripts to get executed. So executing the following command, I mean, if you just go and check that, by default it will be remote signed, and if you want to have no policy, you can also go and change it to undefined, and you can set up as whatever way you want to. Okay, so this is what I want to convey as part of this session. Thank you for listening.